Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Juice Box. Inside this week, we've got the Saturday night's main event revival PLE Jace show. Pretty special moment that they're going to do here. Vintage stuff going on. We're going to talk about all that. And I say we because it's been a little bit, but now he's back in. The one, the only, Josh Isenberg. How are you doing on this fine Juice Box Friday?
I am doing fantastic. Just looking forward to Saturday night's main event on NBC and Peacock. A perfect time to do it as it's between NFL games, between college football taking a quick timeout. So all eyes, in my opinion, are going to be on NBC and Saturday night's main event.
Beep, beep, beep. Yeah, man. Saturday night's main event. I mean, just as a quick rundown, this thing was the stalwart for WWE programming that wasn't, squash matches and stuff or pay-per-views from 85 to 92. And fun fact, the 85 first ever show is emanating from the same arena as the show tomorrow evening out on Long Island. I was, of course, I was born after the original run of Saturday night's main event. Do you recall any of those early shows growing up at all, or no?
No, to be honest with you, being born in '88, I missed a lot of moments. Yeah, so I mean, I went back and watched a few of them. I watched the one that they did in 2006 just to. And I remember that time because it was a few weeks before WrestleMania. You had the two main events facing each other in a 2-on-3 match, which at that point told you, well, Triple H and John Cena, a little more important at this point in time than Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, and Kurt Angle. But it was interesting because I loved the beginning, that hard open with, Vince and Shane, HBK, JBL, all those guys cutting a quick 30-second promo. I don't know if they'll do that again. It'd be kind of cool to see them do something like that. But I'm just excited for the nostalgia to come back for one night. And then also, next month, one night again.
That's right. And as you said, I kind of went back and rewatched some of them growing up. And then 2006, the first two of the revival were live. Then they started taping them, which were kind of annoying. But those first two I felt were really special. You had, Shane versus Shawn Michaels in a street fight a couple of weeks before WrestleMania, where Vince and Shawn had that street fight. So really felt that it was a appointment viewing. And I brought it up to start, and you kind of brought it up there. You kind of hope for some old school stuff. Well, I got some news for you. Definitely they have been playing into Obsession by Animotion, the song that went from May of 85 to January of 88, that first run. They're bringing that song back. Jesse the Body Ventura is going to be making an appearance at this show, and I believe the future Saturday night's main event shows, as you also stated, January 25th of next year. They already announced a second one here. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Jesse kind of said, hey, they brought me back to do 4 of these a year. So I am here for that. And, you saying the football thing, it's perfect. A Saturday night, kind of in the middle of nothing. And then the next one will be right around the championship games, but it'll be on the Saturday night before then. I love it. I love this little kind of a PLE thing, but this is pretty stacked, I got to say. This is actually going to be the 37th Saturday night's main event. I also have heard rumors that the wrestlers will be coming through the crowd as they used to. And as you brought up the opening promos where you get that and they do that quick promo and it's just bang, bang, bang. You get the highlights to hype up the night. I'm thrilled, man. Let's dive into this.
Let's do it.
Yeah, 5 matches right in that meaty part of the PLE curve, but on Peacock and on NBC. anything just immediately stand out in regards to it being 5 matches, the fact that we're getting 2 world title matches, a new title? What is happening? Is this is this going to be bigger than a normal PLE?
I don't know about bigger, but it could be more important than some of the PLEs we've seen over the past handful of months, and that's saying something, because you're looking at them putting on their heavy hitters, and it's interesting when I say heavy hitters, and you're not even getting, Roman, you're not even getting CM Punk, you're not even getting, those big names that have carried you, but you're getting Cody Rhodes, and that just tells me the star power of what Cody Rhodes has become. And we'll dive into it, towards the end of this podcast, but is Cody at a point now where he is the face like Roman, where he might not need the title to be that number one guy to build a show around? Has he gotten to that level yet? We'll dive into. But the only thing that really stands out aside from that match to me is, the other world championship match, adding a third person in there makes it interesting for me. And then obviously I do think a championship will change hands and there will be a new champion. And you also have to think there has to be a few surprises along the way. There's a lot of rumored returns that are going to be taking place over in the next month or two, and you can't bring all of them back on Netflix. You can't bring all of them back at the Royal Rumble. There's quite a few names that have been whispered that could potentially return at Saturday night's main event.
And as you say, dive into it. Let's do that, man. First of all, we've got the tournament final for the first ever WWE Women's United States Championship. Now, I will say we do not know as of this time of recording who will be in that final, but it'll either be Bayley or Chelsea Green taking on either Michin or Tiffany Stratton. Now, there very well could be, a botch something, and then we get a triple threat, or maybe a fatal 4-way, or it's just a one-on-one. Looking at the card as is, without knowing who's actually going to be in, it is what it is. Who do you see in the finals, and then who do you see ultimately winning this thing?
I'm going to be completely wrong, I think, on this one, is because this is the one that I really don't have any idea. I have one thought process that Tiffany Stratton shouldn't win because she's carrying the Money in the Bank briefcase, right?
Fair.
You never really see a Money in the Bank briefcase winner holding another championship. I'm sure it's happened a few times, maybe with the IC title or whatever, but you typically don't see that because they're on to bigger and better things. And I think, her time to be world champion might be sooner rather than later. So that leaves me, Michin, Chelsea Green, and Bayley. My head says maybe Bayley because this is a new title. And how do you bring prestige to a new title than somebody who was the women's world champion at WrestleMania? So you could say Bayley could give some credibility to that. But I do think that they want to give this title to somebody who hasn't held maybe any championship before, has maybe held lower level championships. The person that I think that would bring the most entertainment to it would be Chelsea Green. The person that I think they will give it to, in my mind, honestly, I think it could be Michin. Because Michin has done a really good, But
we're dead on. Everything you said is exactly how I would play it. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you see Michin on SmackDown, who she's put on some really great matches, whether they're her short feud with Chelsea Green, her matches with Nia. She's really, to me, proven to be a workhorse. And I think that's what the Women's U.S. Champion is going to be, is somebody who's a workhorse. If I had to pick, I would say Michin is going to be the new Women's United States Champion.
You make pretty much all the same points that I was going to say. However, I also I throw these caveats in. Like, Chelsea Green's been so close, but are they really going to pull the trigger, or is this a case of, man, she's really entertaining regardless, and it's kind of more fun seeing her get so close and never get it. And you mentioned returns. There's rumors swirling. Could Charlotte come back at this show? And if she does, is it automatically for a women's title? Because if Bayley were to end up in this thing, win the United States Championship, could that be something you could see? Or is that less than for Charlotte? And remind you, she did challenge for the NXT title, winning the Royal Rumble, if I'm not mistaken.
She did, during COVID.
Yes.
So that was very different times. I don't think she's coming back and going to be put into a championship feud. And that's saying that every time she comes back, she has been. So I'm going
to say every single time she
every time, yeah. But right now, I think what you see in WWE, especially in the women's division, is the depth. And you can have Charlotte in a singles match with a lot of women that have the ability to go on her level. And when I mean on her level, right below, because I think Charlotte is still one of the most complete women. So no, to answer your question, I don't think she gets involved. She might come out after one of the championship matches, but I don't think that that's going to automatically propel her into a championship feud, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And you're right. I don't know if she needs to come back for something like this either. And the Tiffany Stratton thing, at some point, it's gonna happen. She's been teasing it for a long time, and I just don't know. I don't know when the right moment will be, but I think she's more interesting with the briefcase. Is always that tease of when am I gonna do it? Is it Tiffy time? What time does it need to be for this perfect opportunity? So give me Chelsea Green versus Mi Chin, and I'm gonna go out on a limb. Here's the thing. I think Mi Chin is going to win, but I'm going to pick Chelsea Green to win, and I'm gonna say maybe there's a chance Matt Cardona's in the building, which would be perfect. He's not gonna be on screen. He's in AEW right now, but I think Chelsea Green's gonna win this thing. And have a huge moment. I think Michin and her can have some matches in the future, but even though I think WWE, like you said, man, Michin's probably who they're gonna choose. I'm picking Chelsea Green because I want Chelsea Green. I think it'd be a great moment.
Well, don't we all want Chelsea Green? But okay.
Well, let's talk about another women's match here. This is actually for the Women's World Championship. Io Sky, Liv Morgan. Oh, man. These two seem to be going back and forth. We just had War Games that, you and I watched together. We get this world title match now. Is Liv all done with, the Rhea Ripley thing to where now she's just defending the title and this is going to be her thing? Or is Rhea going to cost Liv this championship? How do you look at this World Championship match, and is this the one that you said was going to change hands?
This is also one that's really interesting to me because I do think the Rhea interference makes all the sense in the world because, Liv has screwed her over so many times in terms of, SummerSlam when Dominic obviously, distracted Rhea and, taking out Rhea. So there's been a lot of upper hands for Liv Morgan against Rhea Ripley. So you would think maybe she will cost it and Io can have the title and Io can go on to bigger and better things because, again, it goes back to kind of the Charlotte thing. Does a feud with Rhea and Liv need to be for a championship at this point? I don't know. I think that Liv will end up winning this match because I do think they want to put the world championship back on Rhea Ripley at some point, whether that be at WrestleMania, maybe they do it at a Royal Rumble. I'm not sure. Or you can have, hell, you can even, if you really want to stretch this out, you can have Rhea just win the Rumble and then have, her cash in ability or, her ability to quote main event WrestleMania with Liv.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to go that far. I think it's getting to the point right now where you're going to have to pivot and kind of wrap up this feud. But then again, you have Damian and Finn Balor that are still feuding. And as of, a few weeks ago, Finn cost him the championship again. So it's, to me, the Judgment Day feuding with these two is at a standstill because there hasn't been much growth in the story. It's just been the same thing for the past 2-3 months of Rhea and Damian getting screwed. If I had to pick, I think Liv retains. But I would love to see Io Sky win this and get that championship back. I mean, there's so many options for, again, the depth of the women, so many options for them to go heading into WrestleMania season.
Here's the thing now. If you think, I'm sorry, but did you say that Rhea and Liv are potentially at a collision course for WrestleMania? Is that what you said that they wanted to do?
I feel like that's what they're trying to do right now, but I think they need to pivot out of that and make that happen sooner. Well,
if it happens, wherever it happens, do you think it has to be for the championship? Because Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley, to me, doesn't need it. It's got the story all built in there, but I mean, the title is a kind of a crucial part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they need the title to be there, but I think that they will end up keeping the title on Liv to eventually Rhea gets her ultimate comeuppance and regains that championship. I personally don't think the two women need that title to culminate their storyline, because then it elevates other women in the division like Io Sky, who we don't know what she's going to do if she doesn't have that title. So
Right.
maybe you can do something like Rhea and Liv have a one-on-one. The winner can go to Io, which would end up most likely being Rhea. So it's just convoluted in that picture right now with the women's division on Raw, where you're just not sure where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I'm in agreement with you. I'm going to take Liv Morgan to retain the Women's World Championship. As much as I love Io Sky, it's just not the right time. I think this needs to get past the Rhea Liv thing to kind of open up the women's division a little bit more. Yep. And it doesn't hurt that they're adding a United States Intercontinental Championship for the women. So if you missed out on one, there's always another opportunity waiting in the wings. So Liv for me. Let's go to a non-title match. This was added, pretty much the last match added to this thing. But it's kind of a grudge match, if you will. But Sami Zayn taking on Drew McIntyre. These are two heavy hitters in regards to Raw and SmackDown, respectively. And, of course, there's been now definitely the rumor of the transfer portal thing or transfer period where, well, some guys are going to go to Raw, and of course they're going to go to Raw. It's on Netflix. Everybody's going to want to be there. Netflix wants a certain roster. That's pretty clear. And then SmackDown, if it goes to 3 hours, you're going to need some heavy talent there as well. So this is kind of that old school interpromotional match between these two guys. And Drew's been laying waste to a lot of guys as he's returned. So this is more of just for honor, I guess, for Sami Zayn to try to defend, because Jey Uso got his ass beat by Drew, and Punk helped out in War Games, and Drew hates Punk. So I think Drew McIntyre wins this, and not a bloodbath, but I think he has a definitive win against Sami Zayn. Because I think, depending on what you think with later on in the night, I think Sami Zayn has some plans in 2025 that hinge on the main event. So I think he should go away for just a little bit.
Yeah. I ultimately think Drew McIntyre is going to win this match as well. The only thing that I think about is when I look at this card, if we look at WWE's always their mindset of making sure that fans go home happy. We've booked Liv winning, which is a heel. The women's United States Championship, if it's Chelsea, if it's Meechin, it doesn't really matter heel or face with that one. But as we move on to the card, I don't know if every heel is going to win, but it seems like could be what happens if you think of a title change in the next two, whether Finn gets it or Kevin we'll talk about. But I'm going to go with Drew in this one just because Drew's been gone for a few months. I think Sammy is a guy that can take a loss and you still love Sammy. Whenever Drew lost to Punk, you're like, okay, you knew he was going to spend some time off just to kind of recharge, refresh, and then creatively bring him back into the fold. So because of that, because of just the newest return of McIntyre and the fact that Sammy can overcome loss after loss and the fans still will be behind him, I'm going to take McIntyre as well.
Yeah, I think it's almost just a safe bet. You want to kind of, lack of a better term, juice up Drew McIntyre as we get to the first Raw on Netflix. Then, I mean, you got another Saturday night's main event, and then boom, Royal Rumble. Like, this is going to be the time. This is like the road to WrestleMania. So you kind of want to build up certain stars to have them have momentum. Once we get to the Rumble, it's like, well, now we have 10 different people that could win it, and that's kind of what you want. We've said it how many times on this show. When it's unpredictable, that's the best kind of wrestling. We can't really figure out what's going on. We try to predict all we want. We think Damian Priest is going to cash in for 8 months in a row, and it's the 9th month. You just never know. So,
yeah. Well, and the only good thing we can say is, the last time that Kevin Owens was in a championship, well, not Kevin Owens, but just in general, Kevin Owens and a lot of these people, this is not roadblock end of the line in Pittsburgh. This is a meaningful pay-per-view PLE. I know that pay-per-view was, oh my gosh, in Pittsburgh. Were you there for that?
Oh, I got the seat. I got my seat. Yeah.
Oh, you got this. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the reason
big PLE.
And the reason I'm saying that is this pay-per-view, this PLE, In December, there's times where these December PLEs are always and I think the next two matches that we dive into now are going to separate them from, this is just another event. This is national television. This is NBC. This is Peacock. This is something that I think WWE needs to make a big splash for. And I think we might see that in one of these next two matches.
I tend to agree. It's a big night on NBC. Like I said, Jesse the Body Ventura is going to provide commentary on this show. The crowd's going to be on fire for this, and just the old school vibes are going to be all throughout the show. We'll get to a little bit more of that in the main event, but one of two men's world championships, and now a triple threat, which really spices or juices the match up. Gunther versus Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship. At this point, Gunther's practically a tweener. He's leaning more babyface as, Finn Balor gets in the way. Gunther's having great matches with Damian Priest, so it's more of like a respect thing. And so Gunther's he's getting more and more likable as the weeks progress. And I like that because Gunther is a guy who, no matter how much you want to hate his character, quote unquote, you can't hate how he works in the ring and how awesome his matches are and just how, banger after banger, for lack of a better term. So I think Gunther is kind of leaning in a good guy role, even though he's a dastardly world champion. Now we get this wrinkle of a triple threat. Anything goes, and logic in me just says Finn and Damian cancel each other out. They still probably have some more stuff going on in the future. I say Gunther retains his championship here. What say you? And do we see any inkling on a next challenger for Gunther in this match, or is this just going to be Gunther wins and that's it?
I think this is Gunther wins and that's it. And I echo all of your sentiments in terms of Damian and Finn canceling each other out. I think they did not want Finn to have a clean pinfall loss because I do think that they're going to try to cook him up a little bit more in the next couple of months. Maybe not getting into a world championship match, but you put a triple threat match in and you have either he take the pinfall loss or even Damian. It's triple threat rules, so anything can happen. It could be no disqualification. There's more ways to make opponents that lose feel less, and a triple threat match is the way to do that. So I agree. I think they cancel each other out. I think this is a great opportunity, and I think for Triple H, in his mind, Gunther is a notable person in professional wrestling. For a lot of us, knowing how good he is, this is an opportunity to platform him on a national, even a more national stage than just a Peacock PLE or a WrestleMania. This is really, in my opinion, aside from SummerSlam, and again, SummerSlam's a big event, but again, not on NBC. This is an opportunity to showcase Gunther and make him again, maybe not just a secondary champion, but a face of what WWE is going for, going into 2025 and beyond. So I think Gunther wins. I think Gunther is going to retain. I don't think that we're going to find the next challenger out for Gunther. Man, I don't know if he keeps the title going into WrestleMania. If they want to take that title off of him, I'll be interested to see how they do it. This would be a way for them to do it, but I don't think the two opponents that he's facing are the two right choices right now to be World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, I agree. I think these guys kind of just fell into this because Finn interrupted another title match, and now I get one. And I agree with you, man. I think as an international world champion that is big, to us, but to the national audience, this could be a potential coming out party for Gunther as a character, as a champion, as someone that WWE clearly has no problem handing the keys to. And look, we talked about Netflix. I don't think Gunther's going to be on that show. I think Cody, Roman, a lot of the big guys are going to go over there. So Gunther's going to be the guy that holds the fort down on SmackDown. And when you talk new challengers, I really think there's a chance you get John Cena at WrestleMania going for a world title. Sure. Whether it's Cody or whether it's Gunther, I think either would work. So, maybe that's something down the line we can look forward to. But I like at least that this match has triple threat stakes, no DQ, chaos. It'll be a real fun atmosphere, I think, for this match. But as you said, I agree that Gunther's probably going to retain here, and that'll be it.
And I'd love for this to start off the first match of the night.
I I have a feeling it will.
I think you bookend both men's world championship matches.
Speaking of, let's get right to it. Cody Rhodes defends the undisputed WWE Championship against Kevin Owens. I don't know how many times these guys have had bouts. I don't know how many times these guys have gone back and forth and been friends, not friends. Now we're bitter rivals, and we're going to have a world title match to probably main event Saturday night's main event, a throwback show. A video surfaced the other day of Triple H with a case, a large case, and kind of presenting it to Cody saying, hey, one night only, And he opens the case, Cody does, and just like in Pulp Fiction, all you see is a gold light emanating from it. What could that possibly be? Well, seemingly everybody on the internet thinks that it's the Winged Eagle, the old school WWE title of old, which, Cody brought back the old school IC title back in the day, and he's definitely been, lack of a better term, politicking to get that Winged Eagle title in and around WWE again. Even though it's one night only, I have a feeling that this is something that if it kind of works well and it plays well, they might bring it back again or have an opportunity to keep it going forward at some point. But I don't know if that's tonight or this particular night. Here's my prediction. I'm going to just say it straight up. I don't know where Cody goes by the time WrestleMania rolls around, whether he's champion, at that time or not. But I'm going to say it. I think Kevin Owens walks out of Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum as your new WWE champion. Josh, what are your thoughts?
I mean, that's really where I think this is going to go. The logical thoughts are going to be, it's interesting because with the Netflix and the transfer window, then Kevin Owens, with your thoughts earlier, Gunther being on SmackDown, Kevin goes to Raw. Does Cody follow him to Raw? Most likely, because I think Cody, Roman, I think basically the big main storylines on SmackDown just get shifted to Netflix. You know what
pretty
I mean?
much.
I think it's just a
Bloodline.
Cody,
KO.
Yeah, obviously Randy, and where does that leave Punk and Seth? Where does that leave Gunther in the Judgment Day? So I really think that's just kind of what's going to end up happening. Do I think Kevin Owens walks out? Yes. Am I completely sold on it? No. And there's just been so many times in the past where you think Kevin Owens is going to win a match and he doesn't. Bash in Berlin, nobody thought he was going to win. This one, I think more than ever over the past 5, 6, 7 years, you think he's going to pull away with it. I'm just a little skeptical that he won't, and they just want to keep the title on Cody. But what I was saying in the very beginning of the show is Cody at a point now where whatever Cody match is that he's in, he's already finished his story. What's the next story? The next story, we haven't really known what it was going to be because he's kind of just faced guys like AJ Styles, Kevin before this storyline really heated up a few months, about a month or two ago.
Yep.
Is his story going to be with The Rock, potentially?
Yeah.
Is that going to be for a world championship? It doesn't have to be.
It could be for the People's Championship.
Pass. But I think I think Kevin wins, and I think they give him this really big moment. But I still would just be a little skeptical because the last time Kevin Owens was a Universal Champion and they pulled a title off of him before WrestleMania was because they wanted Goldberg in the spotlight. I'm not saying Goldberg's coming back for anything like that. I'm just saying it will piss off Kevin Owens more. I think if he was the champion for 1 or 2 months and February or March rolls around and that title is shifted again to somebody else. I just see the big picture. In my big picture, in my mind, is Las Vegas. It's not going to be Kevin Owens as the WWE Undisputed Champion. So do you give him a 2-month reign just to do a shock value? Maybe. It's really tough for me to figure out a path for these people right now. So kudos to WWE for doing that because I really am putting a lot of pieces in the air and I think they have an idea. All in all, I do think Kevin wins. It'll just be very interesting to see what the follow-up would be over the next 3-4 weeks after that.
And to kind of bounce off those points, when you mention, like, I don't know, the rumor and how things have kind of locked in, people kind of want Sami Zayn to somehow win the Rumble, win the Chamber, something.
It's not going to happen.
And
yeah.
Well, that's right. That's what I'm getting at. To go against, if Kevin Owens were to be the champion, that would, be perfect. It would make perfect sense and everything. But getting him the championship and holding it until Mania is the problem. It's tough to do that, even with the second world title. Like we said, God, how many different guys did you mention that could be world champion? And I would believe that they would go into Mania as champion more than Kevin Owens. And that's not a disparaging comment to KO. But if it's Punk, or because Punk has stated he wants to be in the main event. I mentioned John Cena. He probably wants to have a shot at the title. So many different guys that could potentially have that opportunity by then that I just don't think so for that particular night. However, I think there is money if Sami Zayn could find a way to go again. Like, let's say KO wins. You get Sami and KO. You could have that Sami KO for the title at the Rumble. Yeah. You could have that happen. Hell, you could have it happen at the next Saturday night's main event. You could do a lot of different things. If Kevin Owens was champion, to where you could have Cody. Look, he won the Royal Rumble the last 2 years. What about this year, or next year? He wins the world title again. Like, if he wins it back, and that's how you lead things going on to WrestleMania. There's a lot of avenues. I just really think that this would be a great first. It's not the first Saturday night's main event, but the first one back in 15 years. What a huge moment this would be to pull the trigger on someone like Kevin Owens, an old school guy against an old school guy, probably with the old school looking title. I think it would be badass.
I do too. And that's why I think that it likely will happen. But what you were saying with the Sami and Kevin thing, I mean, you think about it, we still have Randy Orton that's going to come back. And to me, the Randy Orton-Kevin Owens feud was just as hot as years and years ago of Sami and Kevin. And Sami and Kevin have already fought each other at WrestleMania. Yeah, it was at the COVID one, but there's still that can be in a year or two. That doesn't have to be in 3 or 4 months.
And I only agree with that because what we've been saying and what's looming in here, the elephant in the room is the bloodline and The Rock. And when Kevin Owens first won the undisputed Universal title back in 2017 or whatever, or 2016, I don't know, 2016 I think. But Triple H helped him win that title. Yep. And I would not be shocked if someone like The Rock could come back and cost Cody to set things up. That means that the title didn't need to be involved in their story. Mm-hmm. Even if it comes back around to it, at least starts by The Rock costing him. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that we are in agreement that they want this show to be a big deal. Yeah. And they want people to tune into that next one. But you got to get tuned into the next one by having a strong first one. So give me all that stuff, to be honest with you. So you think Kevin Owens is going to walk out? I agree.
Yeah, I'll put $1 on Kevin Owens. And to wrap everything up with the predictions, I think that we've mentioned a lot of what ifs and obviously future planning on what we're seeing in the coming months. Everybody always talks about building to WrestleMania, and definitely understand that. But they're building to Netflix. They're building to the Rumble, which sells itself. They're building to Elimination Chamber in Toronto. All of these events, just because somebody isn't going to be in a world championship match at WrestleMania, yet they might be in a grudge match against another high-level person, doesn't take away from how popular or how good they are. So, for instance, if Kevin doesn't win this and Cody is still champion, and we go to Netflix, or hell, even Kevin could stay on SmackDown and really be that main guy on SmackDown, depending on who shifts back and forth, there's a really good opportunity for those guys like Kevin, like a Sami, to put together amazing stories over the next 3 or 4 months, even going into WrestleMania. It doesn't have to culminate. Not everything culminates at WrestleMania.
That's right.
So I think that's what we have to keep in mind is there's going to be a lot more important parts, and that's kudos to WWE for making these PLEs important. Not, a random PLE in May, that has no relevance to what's going to happen in 3, 4, 5 months down the road. So it's a constant evolution of what WWE is viewing as big events. And again, another Saturday night's main event in January. I think it's the week before the Royal Rumble. You'll probably have something there for maybe somebody gets that last Rumble spot or, a Rumble spot, things like that. So just keep that in mind when you're listening and thinking of all the surrounding pieces that could or could not happen, that it's not always just about WrestleMania anymore. It is a big part of it, but not about everything.
And it's also not just about the championships. I mean, how many times have we had, Punk and Drew McIntyre arguably had one of the best matches in the entire year this year.
A bad blood.
For nothing. No title on the line. It was a Hell in a Cell match that was really over a blood feud. And like you said, kudos to WWE for, it doesn't have to be WrestleMania. Like, sure, big things blow off at WrestleMania. No doubt about that. But it's not everything. And you even mentioned a random PLE in May. Some of their best shows have been these Backlash in Puerto Rico, or like you get random big shows that pop off, even if you're not expecting them to throughout the year. And that's why this show in particular I'm looking forward to as well, because it's not a PLE, but it's on a national stage. It's an old school show with an old school vibe, and a lot of big stuff could and I think will happen. So overall, what are your just thoughts on this show as a whole? And do you see it being so successful that they roll with the 4 a year? Is this going to be a mainstay going forward, do you think?
I think so. They're staying on USA, which is obviously part of NBC Universal. I think this is great for them to do. They're going to do that Saturday night's main event, January 25th, I believe. Is that
Yeah, that's the next one. And I also wanted to bring up, it's also for like older fans might tap into this because I remember Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have a problem with Saturday night's main event being, 4 or 5 times a year, every few months, because there's also great parts in the calendar, not necessarily the January 25th one, but you look whenever the NFL season ends and college football ends, NBC's looking for live programming all the time. You get one Saturday night's main event on a Saturday, hell, in end of February or middle of March.
Probably the end of March 1st is Chamber. So if you do it at the end of March, and Mania is April 19th and 20th, you could have a perfect one right there.
Yeah, and there's not much competition, that you have at that point. And they've also shied away from the competition from NCAA, even though WrestleMania doesn't really ever get affected by the NCAA, March Madness or the the championship. But pushing that back a couple of weeks in April, I think does great for them. And they're more strategic now in where they're placing things. So I'm all for a Saturday night's main event coming up 4 or 5 times a year. But you're right. They have to make a big splash on the first one to get people to want to do more of those events. And I think they're going to.
I'm in agreement, man. So I think we agreed on pretty much everything. What, Chelsea and Liv, Gunther?
I said Michin.
Oh, you are going to go Michin. See, I think that's what WWE will do, but I'm just going to stick with Chelsea. I would love for her to get this big moment. And then Liv, Gunther. And did you pick Drew?
I did pick Drew, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think so as well. Although it'd be kind of funny to see Sami Zayn get one up on Drew. But at this point, I think Drew needs to, again, get that momentum built so that he's just another big star going forth. Ideally, I think he'd be on Netflix. Do you think he'd go to SmackDown or?
Who?
Drew, because there's some people have to be on SmackDown, like.
I think it's going to be Drew on SmackDown. Yeah, I think you're going to have to separate him and Punk's not leaving Netflix. Not leaving Raw when they really go to Netflix. So I think that's when you can separate them. You can give Drew a new batch of wrestlers on SmackDown. If Drew stays on Raw during Netflix, nothing against Drew, but he'll be the 3rd or 4th most important thing, where he could be one of the most important things on SmackDown.
I'm in agreement. And hey, give me Drew McIntyre and Gunther for the world title any day of the week.
Slapping some meat.
That's right. And then we both think Kevin Owens. That'd be wild. I really hope Kevin Owens wins. I'm a huge KO guy. I've said on this show before, I think that, he might have hit his ceiling and he might not get any more world title matches. Well, here we go. Yeah. Prove me wrong. Let's see it happen. I'm looking forward to it, man. Nostalgia is always great, especially when it comes to pro wrestling, because that's how we got into it in the first place. So sure. I appreciate you being on, man. I'm sure we'll talk again soon, maybe for Festivus. We'll get together for something. But, for Josh Isenberg, I'm Drew Springsteen. Hopefully you guys enjoy Saturday night's main event this Saturday on beep, beep, beep on NBC. This has been the Juice Box with Josh Isenberg and Juice Springsteen. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.